Starter Marriage, a show where we examine modern marriage from every angle, including our own relationship. I'm Allison Raskin, a New York Times bestselling author, relationship coach, and mental health advocate, and I have forced my husband into doing this show with me.
And I'm John Blakesley. I'm a former CIA officer, and I was up until 1 a.m. last night writing an economic model.
Yeah, that was out of control. And honey, you didn't need to be up until 1 a.m. because you spent the entire day building a model that wasn't necessary for the assignment.
That's correct. But once I got started, I had to finish it. I had to make it work.
Did any other student in your class do anything like that?
I don't know. I had to come record the podcast, so I left. The second person didn't, but yeah.
But you just won an award.
That's true.
Yeah, he calls from the other room. He goes, I just won $500. And I said, oh, don't click that link. That's a scam. But he was awarded an achievement of economic excellence in his grad program.
There you go.
We haven't told enough people about it. We didn't tell anyone about it. Well, we're telling you now.
That's 500 large ones.
Now, do they give that to us like an Amazon gift card? Like, how do we get access to that money?
Yeah, it's in a cryptocurrency.
Okay.
It's in a meme coin that is really not accepted anywhere, and I have to buy more of if I can take it out. Anyway, whatever. Please buy the meme coin so I can cash out.
Well, I'm very proud of you. You're thriving in school.
Thank you.
You're an A+ student. We couldn't have been more different in our grad school experiences.
How so?
Well, I hated it. I was miserable all the time. I made 0 friends, not a single friend that I maintained contact with.
Right.
I also was like obsessive about knowing when all of my assignments were, when everything was due, what like the whole layout of the semester was. You, on the other hand, you never have any clue what your assignments are.
No clue.
You don't know when you have class. You don't know when the semesters end. And you're the king of the school. You have more friends than I've ever had in my entire life from this graduate program.
Right.
They're texting you constantly.
Yeah, they're pals.
And one day you couldn't even get home in time because after a class, everyone just wanted to talk to you.
Right. Yeah, there was multiple people who I wanted to chat with me.
And like about what though?
I don't know. They had things they wanted to bring up, questions, advice. I don't know.
What do you know? No offense.
I know all kinds of things. I host a podcast now.
And what a podcast it is.
Right.
We have a very interesting conversation coming up where we're interviewing Bella DePaulo, the author of Single at Heart, The Power, Freedom, and Heart-Filling Joy of the Single Life. We're sort of pitting married life versus single life against each other.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't that aggressive.
No. It was a lovely conversation. She's very cool. And like whether or not you identify as being single or just want a little more alone time, I think it's an interesting thing to consider.
It also kind of like puts into question, like, why do we prioritize marriage so much as a society?
Right.
Because that's something I kind of like tackled a good amount, I feel like, in my book. I think that like it's almost become the status symbol more than anything else.
Right.
Since like in a lot of ways, there's not that much, well, the difference between like cohabitating and being married is like the benefits that marriage gives you because society wants you to be married. Right.
Well, I mean, did you talk about this in your book at all? I'm going to get around to read it one
book?
time. I'll get around to read it one of these years. No, I don't remember. Like, I imagine like societies want people to have children, and they tend to have children in the context of marriage. And children grow up to pay taxes and that, fund the government. And so that's probably one of the reasons why, like, there's tax benefits, I would imagine.
I just also think it's like a controllable dynamic, right? It's like you're fitting within a mold of what society expects for you. But honestly, a lot of children are born out of wedlock now.
Right.
Because in many ways, people now feel like they have to be like so financially stable to get married. And because of the current situation of our society and the economy, that's like not really doable. So, it's become this sort of like classist status symbol more than just something that people do because they want to do it.
Right.
Or a
right.
way to or like the beginning of adulthood. It used to be like, this is like how you start your adult life. Now it's like, I have to have everything figured out. I have to have savings. I have to be able to buy a house. I have to be able to do all this stuff. And then I can get married.
Ooh, you're married. You must have it all together.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people don't let themselves get married, even though like there would be like emotional and even financial benefits to it because you're pooling resources.
Yeah.
You should check out my book.
I'm very busy. I have a lot of friends at school that I have to hang out with and be cool with.
But before we dive deeper into this topic of single versus married and all the possibilities in between, we have to do everyone's favorite segment of the show, Marriage Moments TM.
A little bit of bebop this week.
Yeah, it's a little jazzy. No?
I don't think bebop
I don't know
is
what
under
bebop.
jazz.
What is bebop?
Bebop is a different genre of music, but maybe it's like falls under jazz.
Did you make it up?
No, it's a real thing.
So Marriage Moment is the segment of the show where we share a fun and illuminating memory, or dare I say moment, from our marriage that stuck with us. And we also share one from a listener.
Very cool.
To kick us off, I will share mine. John, you do a lot of characters. There are a lot of different guys that you're pretending to be with different voices and different mannerisms.
I'm not pretending to be the guys. These are just guys that exist in our house sometimes.
Oh, no. And so one of these guys is an Italian guy whose catchphrase is very good, very traditional.
Absolutely. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, and so he's always kind of like pushing the Italian agenda and kind of like selling you stuff, whether you want it or not.
He's a crook.
Yeah.
He's a straight up crook. He's a waiter in Florence.
Right.
And he is constantly trying to upsell you
Right.
other like dishes and things.
Because it's very good, very
because it's very
traditional.
good, very traditional. But yeah, so he's trying to do that all the time to make money, to rope you into his other scams.
Right.
Yeah.
To increase his status in the world.
Absolutely.
And so one night when my mom was dying, my dad and I had to go have a meeting with the woman like in charge of the home aides. And it was this like very stressful meeting because things hadn't been going well with her care and there were all of these issues. And so we had to like go into this other room. But my mom had been eating ice cream. And at that point, she was no longer in control of her limbs enough to be able to feed herself. And so I was like, John, can you finish feeding my mom the ice cream while I take this meeting?
Yeah.
And from the other room, I hear John doing the full-on Italian guy.
Yeah.
With every bite was a pitch about how very good and very traditional the ice cream was.
He was trying to get your mother to add different things to the ice cream.
Oh, okay.
You know, he was explaining that it's made in the traditional ways, even though it did say Haagen-Dazs on the thing. That's a guy that he knows is one of his friends.
Oh, his name is Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, his name is Haagen. He's a German guy he knows is one of his friends. And so, yeah, no, it's very good. It's very traditional.
My mom was losing
her shit.
She thought it was the funniest thing, and it was.
Yeah.
And it was like such a way to, you know, in another version of that moment, my mother could have felt really infantilized.
Yeah.
And it could have been so awkward,
Right.
you know, for your son-in-law to have to feed you.
Yeah.
But you turned it into, you know, just like the most beautiful, special moment. And I feel like you just like made her laugh up until she couldn't have the capacity to laugh anymore. That I'll always be just like very thankful to you for that. Oh no, I'm crying.
I would reach over, but the microphone. That is like so lovely, honey.
Okay, try to top that with yours.
Holy shit. Yeah, it was a beautiful moment. I'll remember it forever. We were having a blast. You know, just laughing together and yeah, I mean, it was awful what we were doing through. And I feel like that character, in a weird way, who's always trying to take advantage of people, and one up them. I mean, because I was in such a position with her, like, I feel like it weirdly made it funnier, the joke funnier, because I was given like the dynamic. I don't know. I'm so glad we shared that together, and she had such a great sense of humor.
She had the best sense of humor.
I love her.
Another thing that we really latched onto during that time was it's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Oh,
do you remember
yeah.
that? Like, for some reason we kept singing that song.
Oh yeah.
We kept singing it like it goes like it's Istanbul, not Constantinople, but we kept being like it's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Yeah, there's so much humor. So much humor right up to the end. I just always was like, I never wanted her to feel like she was a child.
Yeah.
Or she wasn't Ruth.
Right.
And so I just did whatever I could to like constantly enforce that she is Ruth until her last breath. And if it meant joking around, like to make fun of the moment or,
make fun of my dad.
Yeah, I mean, not to bring up another moment, but it like I remember when she was like, what was it again? What was the animal?
Was it avocado?
Oh, the avocado.
Avi the avocado.
Avi the avocado was this like stuffed animal that she used as like a pillow, and Allison was like, "It's Avi the family avocado," and
because like at one point Sugar had taken a nap on it.
Right,
like
right.
we were all like using
the
this avocado.
And your dad was like, "No, it's Ruth's avocado. It's your avocado, Ruth." And he was just being a sweetheart and like, but like, I just knew your mom, and I just knew she wouldn't like it, or I don't know, like, and I was like, why does Ruth get the freaking avocado?
You were like, I want the
avocado. When do I get time with the avocado? Can I take the avocado from Ruth right now? And it was the last time I saw her laugh. Like she cracked up, and then she kind of very shortly thereafter wasn't capable of that anymore. And so that's a moment I'll remember for the rest of my life.
And we still have Avi the avocado.
We do.
The family avocado.
He still belongs to the family. We ship him to your dad.
He's in New York.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll steal him back.
We will. Whew, I gotta top that, huh?
Good luck.
All right, my marriage moment. Picture it, sweet listeners. It's after our wedding.
Okay.
We're at the airport. We're gonna fly to Florence.
Oh, not right after our wedding.
I didn't say right after.
Well, you implied. Why else would you say after our
Allison,
wedding?
you're so hyper literal. She takes everything so literally. Okay, it proceeded sometime after our wedding.
Mm-hmm.
We were getting ready to go on our honeymoon
in
Italy. Allison is nervous about this.
It's a long flight.
And so she gets what prescription? Ativan prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So Allison takes one Ativan. Before she gets on the plane, she goes, I don't even feel anything. I'm going to take a second Ativan.
I have an incredibly high tolerance for drugs.
You are a tank.
I'm a total tank.
I will give you that. You're a tank.
Thank you.
So we get on the plane, and she's taking 2 Ativans. So
And a gummy.
So Allison is on a different planet.
I felt normal.
She just looked at me. I said, how are you feeling? She goes, I'm fine. Totally fine. I look over at her like maybe 30, 40 minutes into the flight. She's just playing trivia on the in-flight videos that are in front of you. She's playing trivia. And she question 1, asks a question. She clicks the answer. Wrong. Next question. Question comes up. She answers that question. Wrong. She has this goofy smile on her face. She's just enjoying playing trivia so much. And she's terrible at it.
I'm terrible at it.
It's like
I don't know anything.
It's like multiple choice. And she should be getting one every 4 or so. And not really. And then she sees me looking at her and smiling. And then she looks at me and she just goes, have we taken off yet? I'm like, honey, we've been in the air for like 45 minutes.
wasn't
You've just been
that long.
failing at trivia for so. How would you know? You didn't even know the plane took off. I don't think you're a good. So anyway, but this is what I would say. Not only was it very funny, but as a person who, like, if I'm not doing something well, I have a really hard time enjoying it. I love that you can just like enjoy trivia even if you're not getting the questions right. Like that would annoy me and upset me.
Right.
I mean, granted, you were hopped up on quite a bit of drugs.
No, but
but you're like that all the time.
Yeah, I make you ask me trivia questions when I'm in the shower.
Right.
And I don't get those right.
Right.
Yeah.
But you love it.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, look, I couldn't have a single hobby if I had to be good at everything I did. Think about my paintings, my drawings. They're not good.
They're beautiful.
Well, think about my emotional support lady cartoons.
Right.
My art.
You know, they get a lot more visibility than a lot of other artists.
And I feel so bad for the better artists. All right, let's wrap this up with our listener submitted marriage moment, which I feel like very seen by as well. Anonymous writes, I have a lot of random food sensitivity issues around texture. Same, girl, same. And I've always hated celery in particular, but especially soups. I'm a grown woman who will pick stewed celery bits out and put them in a napkin because the act of eating them makes me nauseous. My husband is a huge soup guy. Loves making soup, loves experimenting with different flavors and fixings, makes his own stock, the whole shebang. I feel like you'd love to become a big soup guy.
I have been, historically.
That's true.
I used to make my own stock.
All right. My celery aversion devastates him. So he has started using celery like bay leaves almost, cooking them as whole stalks with everything, then fishing them out and cutting them separately, and then adding the diced cooked celery like garnish to his own bowl while leaving mine completely free of it, even going so far as to store the celery bits in separate Tupperware for leftovers. It's so annoying to do, and he just started doing it one day because he wanted to make sure I was enjoying his many soups as much as he was, and going through a little extra strife in the prep process was worth our shared warm, cozy meals.
That is so sweet.
It's so beautiful.
I wish both of you would understand that it's called a mirepoix, and it's the basis of many soups. Just embrace the celery. You're the same way you don't like cooked celery.
I don't like it, and I don't like raw celery either. I will say this reminds me of another marriage moment of ours, which was, again, so many of my marriage moments will be during the 6-week period where my mother died, but that is seared into my brain. And I had ordered pasta fajoule, which often is a vegetarian soup, but where I got it from, they had put like bacon in it without like disclosing that on the menu. Because I'm a vegetarian, and I like had to go into a meeting or a Zoom or something, and I didn't really get to eat the soup because it had bacon in it. And I came out of the meeting, and you were standing at the counter picking the bacon bits out of the soup so that I could eat it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I picked the right husband. You know, when you have those moments where you're like, well done, me. Like, you're like, this was the right choice.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
It was thank you. That was very kind.
And thank you to our listener's husband.
Oh, yes.
That's very sweet.
This is the standard to live by. Will your partner pick things out of soup for you?
Right.
That's a good question on a first date.
Will you pick this? Yeah. Order soup.
Oh.
And then slide it across the table. And be like, I don't really like shiitakes. And then your move.
Yeah, we'll write a book of dating advice. Oh, wait, I have.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Starter Marriage. It's time to pop the question. This is the part of the show where we deep dive into the main topic of the episode with our incredible guest. And this week we are joined by social scientist Bella DePaulo, author of the award-winning Single at Heart: The Power, Freedom, and Heart-Filling Joy of Single Life. She has been writing the Living Single blog on Psychology Today since 2008, and she has been described by Atlantic Magazine as America's foremost thinker and writer on the single experience. So we thought, let's bring you in for a podcast all about marriage.
Perfect. Thank you for inviting me.
No, I
Of
think
course.
this is like I think it's impossible to talk about marriage without talking about, the other option. And
Hmm.
I think to start off, I just love to kind of ask, why is being single so stigmatized in society?
Oh, well, people who are single, especially people like me and the single at heart who love being single, are threatening this cherished worldview, this mythology that says if you only find the one and commit to the one, then all of your dreams will come true. You really will be live happily ever after, and you'll be happier and healthier and really probably morally superior to those single people. And when single people who are happy comes along, that's threatening that. And in fact, there are several studies showing that when other people judge single people, they judge them more harshly if they're happily single than if they're so sad and wish they were coupled, because the sad single people are upholding their beliefs that, they're better because they're coupled. Look, even the single people want to be coupled. But people like me, I don't want that.
I wonder if you could define the term single at heart, how you came up with it, maybe when you first realized that you were single at heart.
Yeah, so single at heart, we are people for whom single life is our best life, our most meaningful, fulfilling, psychologically rich, and authentic life. So for us, we are happy and flourishing because we are single, not in spite of it. So for us, the risk is not what we would miss if we did not put a romantic partner at the center of our lives, but what we would miss if we did.
Mm.
So for me, I never wanted to get married. And for the longest time, I thought, well, just slow.
Mm.
Maybe wanting to get married was like getting bitten by a bug. And I just hadn't gotten bitten yet. And I don't know, there was no like one specific moment, but over time I realized, no, this is who I am. I'm always going to want to be single. And that was a big deal because then I could totally invest in my single life. And I wasn't thinking, well, should I buy a house now or should I wait? My whole life could be mine once I decided that. And some of the ways I knew that this single life was for me was that being single always felt natural, like that's who I am. Now, aside from the slings and arrows that life throws at all of us, on a day-to-day basis, I was really happy and contented being single. When I was much younger, I did have a few romantic relationships, and I don't have any dating horror stories. The men I was involved with were totally fine. But when those relationships ended, I was so happy to get to go back to my one true love, my single life.
I think it is much easier to move through the world when you have clarity on what you want and you're able to get it. So
Absolutely.
if you're someone that really wants to get married and then you're lucky enough to get married, if you're someone that really wants to be single, you can make that decision to stay single. But what about for those people who really want a partner, but for whatever reason, their life hasn't been working out that way? How do you encourage them to sort of see the benefits of single life despite it not being their first choice?
Yeah, I think what they can do is bask in the freedoms and the possibilities of single life while they are single. So think about the kinds of things they really enjoy doing and maybe would not continue to do if they did find someone. Do those things now. Give yourself the gift of solitude where you let yourself have time to yourself and see it as an indulgence, not as something scary, like, oh, if I'm by myself, I might be lonely. Um, Nurture your relationships with your friends and the other important people in your life. And then when you do find someone, don't demote your friends. Let them still be, welcome them to be an important part of your life.
And I think that gets to a really interesting part of the book where you talk about that being single at heart, you can still have, you're not a monk like sitting on a, somewhere on a rock somewhere. You're having friendships. You can have sexual partners. You can have, you could raise a child
Right.
theoretically if that's something that you wanted.
Yes.
Maybe if you could talk a little bit about that of moving through life, prioritizing different relationships.
Yes. And I like to say that people who are not single at heart, who really want to be in a romantic couple and are in a romantic couple, they have the one. But single people often have the ones, and that can make all the difference. So there's research that follows people as they are single and then get married. And they find that on average, people who get married um, become less attentive to their friends, they spend less time with them, they call their parents less often. So they become more insular. And in contrast, people who are single are more likely to be attending to their friends and relatives and the people they care about. And that can be really important because you have this rich social life in your everyday life when everything's going fine, it's great. But it is also a blessing when something goes wrong. That scare story that people always tell single people, oh, what's going to happen to you if you get sick? Well, what will happen is that you have these people who are there for you. And because there's more than one, need not any one person feels obligated to be there all the time to do everything, so they can instead volunteer to do what they can when they can, and that's an advantage over counting on your partner or spouse to be your everything, as some of the song lyrics suggest. If you count on them, and maybe they'll be there for you, and that would be great. But maybe they will get sick. Maybe they'll get sick of you. It- you just, maybe they'll be preoccupied with something else. So it's risky.
Yeah, my mom always used to say one person can't be your everything. And I
Good
think
for her.
that
She's smart.
she was, and I think that that's shaped my approach to marriage and my multiple
Yeah.
relationships. And when
Yeah.
a relationship would end, it wasn't like, oh no, I have no one. It was like I still have all these people that I was maintaining relationships with the whole time.
That's great. That's great. Because, one of the things I've been talking to single people for decades, and one of the things they say very wistfully is that, they had these great friends, and then once they paired off, they didn't see them anymore. And that can be really painful.
And I'm curious, like some of the research on single life. I can't quote exactly, but I believe there is some research that suggests that like having community really leads to longevity for women, perhaps more than just being married. I
Yeah.
apologize if I made that up, but I.
No, you didn't. In fact, there was this great study that looked that was sure that the people who were going to be doing the best were the ones who were married, and they did this hierarchy. So at the top were the married people, and these researchers thought they're going to do the best. They're not going to be depressed. They're not going to be lonely. They're not going to be stressed. And then next in line were people who were cohabiting but not married,
Mhm.
then single people who were dating, and then at the bottom of the rung, people they were sure were going to do the worst. Single people who were not even dating. Wow, what they found was that for women, there were no differences at all among those four different levels of the hierarchy. Instead, what mattered was whether people had people they could count on when they wanted to talk to someone, when they needed help. So having friends or relatives or anyone in that position was much more relevant to not feeling lonely, to not feeling as stressed, to not feeling as depressed. That's what mattered, not whether you were at the top of the marriage hierarchy.
And what's interesting about this conversation is like what's come up twice now is this gendered component is like, and I wondered because there's all this research out there too that men benefit more from marriage than women do. And I wonder if you've seen any of that in people who identify as being single at heart, that it's more common for women to view this as advantageous, or they get out of a long marriage and then they say, I'm single for the rest of my life. I've had quite
Yeah.
enough of men. Whereas maybe men, I'm painting with obviously very broad brushstrokes here. I'm sure there's plenty of men who identify as preferring being single, but that maybe there's a gendered component to this too. What do you think?
Well, for single people in general, women like being single better. But for the single at heart, what I found is that the men were just as likely to identify as single at heart, or even more so.
Hmm.
And think about what single at heart means. It means you get to be the captain of your own ship. You get to, um, design your life the way you want to. You get to have times to yourself if you want to. So, why wouldn't men like that?
We do like to be captains,
Oh,
I think.
boy.
Yeah, I would love to be a captain.
Well, that's what we'll have the child call you instead of dad. We'll have him call you captain.
Well, it's funny because we're different in this regard. I think, push back if you don't think so, hon. But I feel quite comfortable being alone, and like I've traveled alone. I
Mhm.
I often enjoy like eating in restaurants, and it's like a weird thing sometimes when you're not there. There's all this expectation, like this person's a table for one.
Yeah.
But I have found that moments in my life that I've gotten to really think deeply, being by myself. We're joking about being a captain because I really like boats, and one of the
Oh, that's
things
great.
that is like really appealing to me about the ocean is like kind of the solitude and feeling
Yeah.
small amid this big
Yeah.
world, and it inspires this sense of awe in me. Now, I do not believe I am single at heart in the way that you are single at heart. When
Right.
Allison's gone
Okay.
for the weekend, I have a great Friday night and Saturday afternoon, and I say I've had quite enough of this. I'd like Allison back now. But
Huh.
that having been said, there really is moment when I'm on a tennis court. I really have this time where it's just me alone, maybe practicing my serve. This moment of solitude and being with myself that is really restorative in a sense
Yes.
that a lot of people don't necessarily have. And so that's like a long way of me coming around to a question, which is like, what do you think you can offer people this way of living who are like, you know what, I love my spouse. I want to have a partner. I want to be in my marriage. I don't think I want to be like this all the time, but maybe I do want to reap some of the benefits of these single at heart people. Do you ever talk to people like that?
Oh, yes. And what I would say is the same thing I said about people who are single and don't want to be. And that's the same thing I would say to someone in a marriage or long-term partnership, which is to give yourself the gift of being you. So think about whether you are following your heart in what you love to do. So, were there things you did and enjoyed when you were single, and maybe would still enjoy, but you don't do them now because your partner isn't interested, or everything you do together takes up all your leisure time. So, think about whether you want to reignite some of those passions that you used to have as a single person. Another thing I'd say is um, keep those friendships and those other relationships you have that you value, nurture them, spend time with those people, and spend time with them on your own. Don't be like um, Velcroed to your partner all the time. And again, give yourself the gift of solitude. Take some time to yourself. And I think in those ways, you get to enjoy what the single at heart love about their single lives without also giving up the partnership that you still value.
Allison, are there things that in your life that you miss about being single, like before I came along, that you don't do anymore because we are in marriage? We are man and wife.
Every day I'm racked with just regret. No. I don't think anything to do with marriage. I think that we have actually, we are pretty independent,
Yeah.
as a couple. Like we go off and do our own thing rather often. I think it's more that just like it's hard to maintain, certain habits. So like last summer, I started swimming as my form of exercise, and then everything kind of got in disarray when my mom got sick, and I don't feel like I have the time now to get back to swimming, but I really want to. But like that doesn't feel like you're the one stopping me. It's more just like the conundrum of like how do we fit all the things we want to do into our day. I guess the one thing that we don't do that I've done more with other partners is play games.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big game guy.
Right. So
I like chess, and that's like the one game that
that's the one
you
game I
find
don't like.
insufferable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking the other
Yeah.
day, like I wish we could like play like sequence more often, or just like something that's not us just like watching TV,
Yeah.
or just like talking, but like a little activity we could do in the home together. So I guess I'm playing less games.
All right. I watch. You know what? One thing I do for my single at heart evenings. Maybe that's what I should start calling them.
That would be great. I love that.
I like to go see like foreign films that Allison doesn't really like reading the subtitles. I actually used to go with Allison's mom. But it's kind of nice to see a movie by yourself. It's a really nice experience. And so that's like I have little John nights where I do that. I go see my foreign films.
I also feel like you overcategorized me as someone that doesn't like being alone when I actually do. I wouldn't like go on vacation by myself, but like I would go to a movie by myself. I would go to a meal by myself. Like I'm happy to have like a night alone at home by myself. So I don't feel like I don't enjoy, being alone. I think it's more just like it's not how I want to spend the majority of a day, but like those pockets of it, I definitely like and appreciate.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's cool. I mean, I will give you credit. I have been in relationships before where it was just like what Bella was talking about, where it was Velcro. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I had to get used to in our relationship was that when I went out for drinks with like Josh or one of my buddies, that I didn't have to be home. It was like totally fine for me to just be out late and hanging out and you didn't care at all.
No.
Because when I first started doing it, I'd get like tense a little and anxious, like I got to get back. And that was just like all this learned behavior from previous relationships where it's like, what's he doing out there? And I come home and you're just like, la-di-da. Go out for another few hours, you know?
All the time I'll be out. You don't even understand where I am.
You could be having a full on affair and I wouldn't have the slightest clue.
Oh my gosh.
But let me bring it back.
Not because I don't tell him. He just immediately forgets
she tells
where I
me
am.
multiple times and then I say, great, fantastic. And then she leaves and then I have to pretend like I know where she is because then admitting my ignorance means I wasn't listening. And so she'll just be like, get back. And she's like, oh man, that was a whole thing. And I'd be like, yeah, that it always is when you go there.
True confessions here. I love it.
She's like, you don't know where I was, huh? I'm like, not at all, not a little bit. But let me ask you this, Bella. Like, there are, of course, romantic partnerships, but does being single at heart also extend to things like pets? Like we have 2 little dogs here and they are quite obligations. Let me tell you that. I can't just leave them at any given time. Like how do you think about things like that? Like, do you have any pets or how does that fit into your single at heart?
I don't. I used to. But yeah, a lot of people who are single at heart are just adore their pets. And I asked this question when I interviewed people and I'd ask them, who they considered family, and they'd often mention their pets.
Definitely.
What I love about people who are single at heart is they have these more open-hearted views of family and love and relationships and intimacy. So family for the single at heart, it could mean what we typically think of as family, but it could mean the people you choose to be your family. It could mean mentors or the special people in your life. It could be ancestors, it could be religious figures, and it could be your pets.
Yeah, well, we have a pet here that she is single at heart.
Noticed.
She is single at
Yeah,
heart.
Sugar wishes she lived alone.
Sugar wishes she goes in the corner.
Yeah, she's even saying now, put me down.
She does not like this one bit at all. She is 100% single at heart.
I love it.
But she's also a pack animal. Like
She is a
if
pack
I
animal,
try
yeah.
to take her for a walk, she goes and tries to find Dad to make sure we're all going together.
My God.
So there's a dueling
Yeah.
desire within her.
Yeah.
She's more complicated than most of us.
And I guess that gets to something, which is like, how can you figure out what is a better fit for you? Right? Because I imagine there are some people that like do pretty well in partnership, also do pretty well being single. Like how can you sort of decide like which is a better lifestyle for me long term?
Yeah, you know what? I think you should try it and see. So try really investing in your single life for a certain amount of time and spend time on your own. See how much you like that. Pay attention to your friends and the people who matter to you. Do what you really love to do. So be you. See how that feels. And if you are not liking it, if you keep thinking, oh, I just wish I were with a romantic partner, it's probably not for you. But you have to give it enough time. A really interesting thing that happened during the pandemic is that some people who wanted to be in a relationship all the time, but ended up on their own, they were between relationships during the pandemic, had this initial experience, if they were living alone and under lockdown, of not liking it all at all and finding it really difficult. But then over time, coming to realize like, oh, I like this. I like having my own place and getting to do what I want to do and when I want to do it. And so it's really interesting too, because, our default, our assumption is that, of course, everyone wants to be married or at least romantically coupled. And what I'm trying to do with Single at Heart is validate the people who don't feel that way, because there are some experiences I've had over and over again that just blow me away. So I hear from single people, right? Out of the blue, people I don't know. And they'll say, oh, I really love my solitude and I like my freedom and I like this and I like that. And I think I just want to stay single. And then they'll say, is there something wrong with me? Should I see a therapist? Should I buy self-help books? And what's so flabbergasting about that is that they have what everyone wants, a life that they love.
Right.
But because it's a life that isn't recognized or validated, they end up thinking there's something wrong with them.
Right.
So I want that to stop.
And I think it also, opens the door for less traditional lifestyles. Like, there's a big
Yes.
difference between being completely single at heart and being married. There
Yeah.
are long-term partners that are perhaps long distance. And so,
Uh-huh.
they're
Yeah.
committed to each
They
other.
have some
They
of
have
the elements of being
right.
single at heart,
And it's like,
right?
I have a partner. I see them when I see them. Some
Yeah.
people never live together, but they're long
Mhm.
term. You have like more
Yeah.
casual relationships. Like I don't think it needs to be like as you're either like life partners or you're totally alone. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot in between.
Yes, it is a continuum. I do think of it as a continuum.
I mean, I was thinking as Bella was talking, like this lifestyle, it kind of weirdly reminds me of polyamory too. Like, even though that's the other
Yes.
direction, but
Yes.
it is against a mold, right?
Right.
That most
Right.
people don't or are expected to fit into,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and it's also a sort of taking care of yourself for people who identify that way, because it's like, well, I don't want to just love one person. I want to be in
Yes.
multiple loving relationships, and that's what's right for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's totally fine. And in the very big picture of how societies are changing over time, I see single at heart as part of this change toward getting to be who you really are. So it's part of the evolution of from when men and women were more likely to occupy sex role type roles where, the woman does one thing, the man does the other, and that's just who they are. And we don't believe that so much
Right.
anymore. Or it's part of the evolution where people who are not heterosexual no longer feel as much like they have to fake it.
Right.
And so claiming your love of single life is part of that long-term societal evolution, much as our current administration is trying to turn that back.
Yeah, it's more flexibility, and I also think that
Yeah.
that that you're different at different parts in your life. So I can imagine there are some
Yeah.
people that have a lovely marriage, their spouse
Yes.
dies, they're
Right.
50 years old, 60 years old, and at that point
Yes.
starting again and having to put in the investment of a partnership, having to get to know someone all over again,
Yeah.
they might be single at heart later in life than when
Yeah.
because of circumstances.
Right.
Like I don't think it's like this like you come out of the womb and you're partnered or you're single at heart. Like you should notice the changes within yourself, and just because perhaps in the past you really thrived in romantic partnerships at a different time in your life, maybe when you're not looking to have kids, when you're looking to travel more, when whatever, this
Yeah.
might be a better fit for you even if it didn't used to be.
Yeah, there's not an
Yeah.
essentialism to it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's also another gendered thing where big studies show that after someone gets divorced or widowed, women are less likely to remarry
Yeah.
than men are. Now, part of that is the numbers, but I think it's more than that. And I am especially drawn to the stories of women who had great marriages and they loved their spouse loved them, but they don't want that anymore. Now they want what single life has to offer. Because this whole thing to me of being single at heart or embracing single life is not about running away from anything that's bad about being partnered. It's about embracing what's fulfilling and meaningful about being single.
And to sort of to wrap up the conversation, I'd love to know what are your thoughts on marriage?
Well, I think that let me talk about the relationship first. I think that's fine. My parents were married for 42 years, the one and only marriage for both of them. I think a lot of people really do thrive in marriage. So I'm not anti-marriage. I'm for people living the life that suits them best. But nobody needs reassurance that if they want to get married, it's okay. So I'm doing that for single people, but saying it's more than okay. It can be wonderful. Now, there is a qualification. I do not like that there are so many benefits and protections and celebrations and respect that you get only if you're married.
Hmm.
So, for example, there are hundreds of laws that benefit and protect only people who are legally married. And that was one of the reasons why advocates of same sex marriage work so hard because it really made a substantial difference in their lives to be married. Or think about how in the workplace, where single people sometimes are expected to cover for the couples or take their last choice of vacation times or come in on the holidays um, and there are just so many ways in which single people um, are not treated fairly. And sometimes marriage is that magic key that unlocks the special benefits and celebrations. I mean, nobody celebrated me when I was single for my 50th year. I'm 71 now. So uh, I've been single my whole life. I mean, I think that was worth celebrating. It was my golden anniversary of being single.
Well, you should have one next year.
Yeah, why not?
Throw a ball.
Throw a ball.
Right. Yeah, I should. Yeah, and I love that. Some single people do this. They have celebrations of their 25th year of friendship or,
Oh yes.
something like that, which I think is wonderful.
I think, or you could throw an anniversary for how long you've lived in your beautiful town.
Yes. Oh, that's a great one. In fact, it's 25 years this year. Maybe I should do
Oh,
my
You should.
silver anniversary
Yes.
get
living
planning.
here. What a great idea. I think I'm going to do it.
You should.
You
And send
should.
us photos.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, all right. That's wonderful.
And then our final question, which we ask all of our guests, is what is one fictional couple that you think should have gotten divorced and why?
Oh, well, coming from the single angle, I'm going to take it from that angle and nominate someone who should have never gotten married in the first place. And that's Mrs. Maisel.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
yes.
She absolutely loved her comedy career. She found it engaging. And I think if Mrs. Maisel were born a lot later, like around now, she probably would have stayed single. And I am just loving this trend I'm seeing in popular culture of women, not just women, but it's especially notable for them, who love their jobs. So take, for example, hacks.
Mm-hmm.
those two women love their work. And, the assistant, or Ava, she had a serious romantic partner for a while, and the romantic partner wanted to do all these fun things with her. I think she wanted to go to Iceland, if I remember correctly. And Ava was like, I don't know. I think I want to do my work with Deborah Vance. And it's such a wonderful rebuff to the stories used to scare single people. Like you might think you like your work, but your work won't love you back. Well, sometimes it really will.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you and get your book?
Oh my gosh. My website is my name, belladepaulo.com. Single at Heart is just about everywhere. It should be, obviously Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but lots of independent bookstores. If yours doesn't have it, tell them to get it. It should be in the library near you. If they don't have it, tell them to get it. And I hope you love it because it was a work of passion for me.
Everyone should definitely check it out. And we are so thankful for you for your time and insight.
Oh, thank you. I love talking to you.
Thank you so much, Bella.
So do you think you'll leave me to become single at heart?
We're leaving now.
Yeah. I could see you sort of like really intrigued by this solitary lifestyle.
Right. I was like, yeah, I did travel by myself and I did do these cool things. Yeah. So, yeah, how are we going to figure this out?
Again, I think you've changed.
Oh.
Like, I think, you used to live alone. That didn't bother you. Now I'm gone 46 hours and you can't handle it.
Where the hell is Allison?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't talk about this with Bella, but I was single for all the pandemic or, 2020.
Yeah.
I was between relationships and I was very productive work-wise and I worked out a lot, but yeah, I'm fine with that chapter being over.
Well, now we've reached our final segment, which is the hit game show, Stay or Leave,
Oh, I've heard of that.
where I present you with a scenario of what could happen to us based on the episode's topic in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And you decide if you would stay or leave, because marriage is a choice, not a trap.
TM.
Yes, thank you.
Well, that one I went through all the procedures.
You
I got
did.
it
Wow.
trademarked, yeah.
we should waste all of our money trying to trademark all these phrases.
For sure.
This is very relevant to what you just said. I decide that it is really important for me to take a vacation to Canada to go on an Inspector Gamache tour. So for the very few of you who don't know, Inspector Gamache is a fictional detective in the book series by Louise Penny. He's a very good man.
Yeah.
He's an incredible man, and every year I wait for the new Inspector Gamache book to come out so that I can have the time of my life reading about him. And he lives in Quebec. And so, you can go to Canada and, see all the places the books have taken place, and you can go to the town that it's based off of, Three Pines, and it's just wonderful. And so I decide that going on my Inspector Gamache tour is something I really need to do by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't even read the books
No.
or fully appreciate what a good man he is.
Right.
So I book a 2-week solo vacation
Okay.
that costs $15,000.
15, you said?
Yep,
Okay.
$15,000,
Okay.
which is exorbitantly more than we've ever spent on a vacation.
Sure.
Would you stay or leave?
And so you did this without my knowledge?
Right, because if I felt like I really needed that solitude and that time and to honor myself.
No, I would stay. I mean, we would have a talk about you can't just spend $15,000 without telling me, and that's not okay. But if you were like, hey, I want to go away for 2 weeks, and this is really important for me that I do it by myself, I would first panic a little bit that something was off. or that I was in trouble or something. But then if it was truly that, then yeah, you could go by
And
yourself.
I leave you with the newborn?
And the 2 dogs?
Yeah. I spent $50,000.
In that case, maybe you could just leave. You just stay in Quebec in Three Pines, and family
you're
will.
done with me.
Then I'm done. Yeah, if it was like right after the newborn, yeah.
Yeah. Like I book it for December 20th.
You go live in Three Pines.
What a dream that would be.
All right. So maybe that's even better for you. So in that case, yes, that would be an inopportune time.
How long after the baby is born am I allowed to book my $15,000 vacation?
To Quebec? No, you'd need to stick around like for at least a year.
Okay. So December next year. I'll see ya.
See ya.
No, I would want to go together.
Obviously.
I do really want to do this trip.
I'm in the other part of the house, and Allison's like, "Where are you? We live in a little house, the kitchen."
I just like to know what's going on.
All right, we can go see Inspector Gamache in Quebec. That sounds fun, actually.
Maybe we could do a baby moon.
Oh, all right.
Seems too adventurous, but
Why not?
well, we don't have $15,000.
You just made that money up in your head. You didn't check to make sure that it was a fit. Anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll do a baby moon. TBD whether or not it'll be in Three Pines.
Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you did, oh my goodness, you could rate and review it on Apple, Spotify. You could tell your friends about it.
Tell your mom.
Yeah, if she's alive. Also, if you want to submit your marriage moment TM, please send an email to startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. That's startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com.
What is that voice?
It's fun.
It is fun.
You know, right? It's
But
like
I was
a good
wondering
time.
if that.
Well, it's how I've always done it on my other podcast, JBU. I would always say just between us pod@gmail.com. That's just between us pod@gmail.com.
All right. And if you're looking for a book to read, why don't you check out I Think Conversations About Modern Marriage, written by yours truly here, Allison Raskin. I guess yours truly is when you refer to yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still single at heart, and so I kind of forgot that you were even here. Or save the date, rom-com novel that Allison just came out with, and let me tell you, it's delightful.
Wow, you're getting way better at promoting my stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want to watch the entire video of this podcast, including the part where I openly weep, you can check it out at youtube.com/justbetweenus. That's youtube.com/justbetweenus.
And as we say in our home,
Au revoir.